watching WNED, Buffalo, Toronto. Local broadcast of the Nightly Business Report is made possible in part by member support and by a grant from Northwest Mutual Funds. Our value managers adhere to the principles of economic value added. Northwest Mutual Funds, aiming for better returns with less risk.
It's the end of the road for Oldsmobile. General Motors is parking the brand and cutting its overall staff by 10%. We have a report. Good evening. I'm Paul Kangas in Miami.
And I'm Susie Garib in New York City. Wall Street watched and waited all day, waiting for the Supreme Court's decision on Election 2000. The Dow rose 42 points, the Nasdaq fell 83 points. Then, just after the close, Compaq jumped on the earnings warning bandwagon. We have details. Then, this is no winter wonderland. The Midwest got a taste of things to come this week, and consumers are bracing for high heating bills. We'll look at the winter energy outlook.
Nightly Business Report is brought to you by
Compaq. Technology solutions to help you achieve your inspirations for life and work. Inspiration technology from Compaq.
Franklin Templeton, serving investors for over 50 years. Franklin Templeton and Mutual Series. Investment products distributed by investment professionals. A.G. Edwards, going beyond stocks and bonds to help you plan for a more secure retirement. A.G. Edwards, trusted advice, exceptional service. And is produced in association with Bridge, the global financial information company, providing real-time and historical market data, analysis, and news.
Good evening, everyone. It's still no decision on Decision 2000. America is still waiting to hear from the Supreme Court on the next move on the presidential election. Wall Street, like the whole country, was on pins and needles to find out whether the High Court decided if the so-called undervotes should be counted manually. No answer came during market hours. The Dow notched up only 42 points and the Nasdaq lost 83. Now, if the Supreme Court makes a ruling tonight, it will certainly influence the tone of trading tomorrow. Well, in other business news, it looks like it won't be your kids' Oldsmobile either. GM is scrapping the olds. As Diane Estabrook reports, the phase-out of the once popular brand is part of a major overhaul at GM.
GM officials unveiled their planned overhaul today in Detroit. The restructuring includes phasing out the Oldsmobile brand over the next few years, revamping manufacturing in Europe, and cutting 10% of GM's salaried workforce in Europe and North America. That's about 6,500 jobs. CEO Rick Wagner says the decision to pull the plug on Oldsmobile was especially agonizing.
Our teams worked very hard to try to find profitable ways to further strengthen the Oldsmobile product line, including consideration of products developed with our global alliance partners. But in the current environment, we simply couldn't find an approach that would ensure Oldsmobile's future success.
Oldsmobile has been around for more than 100 years. In the mid-1970s, the brand was selling more than 1 million vehicles a year. But by the mid-80s, sales began sliding. In recent years, GM says new products like the Bravada sport utility vehicle were attracting buyers, but not enough of them. GM plans to work with its nearly 3,000 Olds dealers to phase out the brand. That process is expected to take up to 3 years. The automaker says the time and money saved on Oldsmobile will be spent developing existing brands.
The use of those product development resources should allow us to shorten some life cycles, as well as provide more innovation and differentiation for the remaining brands in our product portfolio.
GM says the entire restructuring will lead to a special pre-tax charge of $1.5 to $2.5 billion for the fourth quarter and will lower earnings as well. But despite that, analysts applaud the plan.
Rick is a very aggressive person. It's taken a bit during his tenure to get this going, but I think we'll see more of this. I don't think he's going to be patient to see businesses that aren't earning a return stay in the GM fold. So I'm looking for more here. I'm looking for more overseas.
Wagner admits at least one other GM division isn't performing well, but he would not identify the brand or if the company has plans to exit as well. Diane Estabrook, Nightly Business Report, Chicago.
It was a mixed opening on Wall Street today, with the blue chip Dow Industrial Average led by strength in General Motors, Procter & Gamble, and J.P. Morgan, posting a 24-point gain by 10 a.m., while the NASDAQ index, which fell 65 points at the outset, trimmed its loss to only 36 points by 10 a.m. The NASDAQ market continued to flounder about in modestly lower ground for the rest of the morning under some profit-taking pressures in the wake of nearly a 9.5% rise in the composite index over the previous 2 trading days. But the blue chip sector extended its early advance with the help of buyers searching for quality and low-price earnings ratio stocks. At noontime, the Dow was up 103 points. The NASDAQ index posted a 37-point deficit. It appeared the market was undermined in afternoon trading by the increasing suspense of what the U.S. Supreme Court would decide about the presidential election deadlock. In any case, the Dow Jones Industrial Average had its closing gain trimmed to only 42.47 points, putting it at 10,768.27. In today's 152-point trading range, the industrial average closed down 88 points from the best level of the session. The NASDAQ composite fell 83 1/3 points to 2931.77. In its 84-point trading range, the composite index settled just a fraction above its worst level of the day. Big board volume dropped to just over 1 billion shares and about 31 million more shares of down volume than up volume. The Dow Transport Index down 33 1/10 points. The Utility Index managed to gain 2.16. The closing tick just slightly bearish at minus 260. Standard & Poor's 500 off just over 9 points, just over a 5-point loss in the 100. The mid-cap 400 down 17 in the small fraction, and the Bridge Futures Price Index down nearly 2.5 points. New York Stock Exchange Composite off just over 2.5. Almost a 4.5-point drop on the value line. The Russell 2000 Small Cap Index dropped nearly 9.5 points, and the broadly based Wilshire 5000 off just over 126 points. The bond market was under mild profit-taking pressure early today following solid recent gains, but prices snapped back as the day wore on, partly because of the growing uncertainty over the Supreme Court's impending decision about the presidential election, and partly in reaction to a survey of the nation's purchasing managers showing only 35% were optimistic about the economy. If they're right, the Federal Reserve may be moved to cut interest rates. In any event, tax-free and corporates closed up an 8-point on average, and the Treasury market also posted modest closing gains, 5-year notes rising 3/30 seconds, the 10-year notes up 2/30 seconds with a yield at 5.36%, 30-year bond up 5/30 seconds, and the Lehman Brothers long-term Treasury bond index gained exactly 2.25 points. I'll be back shortly to show you where the action was on Wall Street today. Susie?
Paul, natural gas prices plunged today, closing down $1.27 to the $8 level. That's a sharp reversal from yesterday when prices hit a historic high. But it's not much consolation to consumers who have watched prices triple this year. Erica Miller reports on what's heating up natural gas prices.
Trading in the natural gas pits at the New York Mercantile Exchange became even more heated than usual today, as the January contract plunged 13% from Monday's record levels. It's the biggest drop in almost 4 years, and came after meteorologists predicted temperatures will climb above freezing in the Midwest this weekend. But prices are still up about 75% since November 1st, as a result of unusually cold winter in many parts of the nation. And experts say the price increase could soon be passed along to consumers. All told, the Energy Information Administration estimates the average winter heating bill will rise about 50% over last year. Driving the increase is strong demand, at a time when supplies are dwindling. Natural gas is used to heat most homes in America during the winter, but it has also become more popular as a year-round source of electricity, especially in places like California, which is experiencing a power crunch. On Friday, federal regulators approved plans to lift price caps on wholesale electricity in that state. That, in turn, is expected to increase demand for natural gas.
California has not built any power plants in recent years. The demand for electricity has increased, and now as a result of that, they're building gas-fired combined cycle capacity, which is the fastest capacity that can be built. And that's causing an increase in demand for gas in California right now.
Part of the increase in natural gas prices is also being blamed on stricter environmental regulations, which make clean-burning natural gas more attractive as a power source for utilities over coal or oil. Traders say the direction of prices will depend on tomorrow's key report from the American Gas Association.
If, they show a big drawdown tomorrow, you should see a huge move up. If there's not so much of a concern, there's not a huge drawdown, maybe see the prices ease into the, the $7 area.
the natural gas crunch could have an impact well beyond the winter. Not only is natural gas used to make electricity, it's also used to make an additive in gasoline, which could lead to higher prices at the pump this summer. Erica Miller, Nightly Business Report, New York.
A slice of the airwaves is up for sale. The Federal Communications Commission is auctioning the spectrum licenses used by cell phone and wireless networks. The auction is being held electronically, with 87 bidders competing for over 400 licenses around the country. The process is expected to last 3 weeks and raise anywhere from $5 to $20 billion. So far, the bids have topped $500 million. The licenses will let firms launch new products, fill gaps in coverage, and improve existing service. FCC Chairman William Kennard says the spectrum is all about innovation.
This auction is part of a revolution in technology because the personal computer is migrating out of the desktop and into all of these networked web-enabled wireless devices, from web-enabled wireless phones to Palm Pilots. And we've got to make sure that the spectrum is available to fuel that migration.
The FCC says plans are already in the works for another wireless spectrum auction in the year 2002.
Another computer maker is warning about a bad fourth quarter. This time it's Compaq. It says earnings will come in around 20 cents. That's 8 cents below Wall Street estimates. Just like Dell, Apple, and Gateway, Compaq blames the weakness on slowing demand for personal computers in the U.S. The picture at Kodak is also not looking very good, but its stock still managed to rise more than 3.5% today, despite the warning. The earnings forecast is now 65 to 75 cents for the fourth quarter. Wall Street had already reduced its estimates to $1.07. Kodak blames the earnings downturn on a sharp drop in film sales, a slowing economy, and inventory cutbacks by retailers. And this is the second quarter in a row that Kodak has warned. Paul?
Well, as they say, the news sometimes is already in the stock because Kodak shares were up $1.50 today, closing at $41.06. But it was a mixed picture on Wall Street overall. The Dow, after being up over 100 points early in the day, had to settle for a 42.5-point closing gain. Broader market lower by a 16 to 13 margin, but 140 new highs for the year against only 68 new lows. A really mixed picture. Lucent Technologies topped the active list on 32 million shares, up $2. There's a rumor making the rounds that Nokia might be interested in making a buyout bid, and no comment from either company on that. Nortel Networks down $4.25, little profit taking after recent strength. That sent the Toronto Exchange Index down 2.5%, incidentally. General Electric down $2.50, hurt by Honeywell's fourth quarter earnings warning. We'll see what Honeywell does in just a moment. AT&T moved up $1.06. Philip Morris down 13, fifth in volume. EMC down $7.88, a little profit taking there. That stock hit $90 a share last week. Motorola down 88 cents after a good gain yesterday. Sprint FON Group up $1.13. The telecom stocks made a nice rally today. Citigroup was down 25 cents, and then Compaq Computer closed up 53 cents. After the close, it dipped down to around 19 and a fraction on that earnings warning, and then after hours it moved just above 20 again. So real rebound there. Alza was up $2.06. The company received FDA approval for its attention deficit disorder drug called Concerta. Best Buy up $1.19. Company in with third quarter earnings lower, 27 cents versus 37 last year, but that was in line with expectations. Honeywell International down $3.06. Company sees lower than expected fourth quarter earnings of 70 to 74 cents. The street was looking for 86 cents. Procter & Gamble moved up $2.88, benefiting from its rival Colgate's forecast of a very good year. Colgate stock itself was up $2.43. Glaxo Wellcome up $1.81, and SmithKline Beecham gained $2.19. The U.S. federal regulators are giving a preliminary merger approval to those two companies. Cyber up $1.19, and this has got to be some bottom fishing. That stock was almost $30 a share last December, and it seemed to have bottomed out. Pinnacle Entertainment up $2.69. Stock got a favorable mention in a positive report on the gaming industry from Jason Ader at Bear Stearns. Rogers Wireless Communications. Now, here's another example of a good telecom wireless stock rallying today. FactSet Research System gained $5.24. First quarter earnings came in at 22 cents, well up from last year's 16 cents, and a penny above the street estimate. Revenue's up a whopping 36%. Interstate Bakeries down $3.50 a share. Second quarter earnings sharply lower, 22 cents down from 40 last year. Sales were flat, and the company sees no improvement really until the fourth quarter of the year. Dallas Semiconductor dropped $8 a share. The company says it sees fourth quarter earnings around 34 to 37 cents. The street estimate was 44 cents. Also, Dallas sees a 5 to 7% drop in sequential revenues. Robertson Stevens cut earnings estimates. NASDAQ trading an 83 and a third point loss in the index. Trading volume just below 2 billion shares, well down from yesterday, but 15 stocks up for every 23 down. Sun Microsystem off 13 cents. JDS Uniphase fell $5.38. Cisco System a 44-cent loss. Qualcomm down $9.69. Microsoft managed to gain 31 cents. Then Intel down 94 cents. Yahoo gained $1.94. Broadcom down $1.75. Ciena losing $1.42. And SDL was down $24.13 a share. MS Carriers a $6 gain on news the company will be acquired by another trucking firm, namely Swift Transportation. It'll be a deal of stock worth about $29 a share. Maxim Pharmaceuticals had a bad day, down $13.31. That's due to investor nervousness ahead of tomorrow's FDA review of the company's experimental treatment for melanoma, the serious skin cancer. Analysts said the sell-off on the stock was overdone. And Pegasus Solutions down $4.81. Company sees fourth quarter earnings coming in around 7 to 9 cents. And the street was looking for 19 cents a share. The American Exchange Index down a little over 4.5 points. Frequency Electronics up another $1.87 after gaining $1.30 yesterday when it reported sharply higher second quarter earnings, 17 cents versus 6 cents, and a big jump of 79% in revenues. NVR, a home builder, down $10.15. No callback from the company, but the whole home building group today was under profit-taking pressure. Finally, the index shares, one gainer, the diamonds, and then the Qs and the depository receipts on the downside. That's the Wall Street wrap-up. Susie.
Paul, this year will be remembered as one of the most painful for tech stocks, and the stocks of long-distance telephone companies have been some of the most badly battered. But at the recent Business Week Forum on the digital economy in San Francisco, Sprint CEO William Estrie told Scott Gervey that reports of his industry's demise are greatly exaggerated.
Well, I think if you're reading the press, you would think it already had died. But in reality, it's a very robust industry. If you look at the telecommunications industry in total, it's probably going to grow, by our estimates, 34% over the next 3 years. It's a heck of an industry. It's very robust. It's changing a lot within, and some of the ways that people are using communications are changing, but the industry is very vital, a very good industry. It's going to grow, as I say, on an annual basis, 11, 12% a year, of a massive industry to begin with.
How is Sprint positioning itself right now?
Well, I think if you look at the areas that are going to have a lot of the growth, clearly wireless is a big area. Data and IP in the internet are big areas. We happen to be exceptionally well positioned. The only really nationwide digital wireless company with one frequency across the board. For 9 straight quarters now, we've grown faster than any other company in the business in new customers. So we're uniquely positioned there. In data and the internet, we're a tier 1 internet carrier, carrying a significant percentage of the internet traffic. We're expanding that network domestically and internationally. And adding hosting and applications to that. So we're well positioned in the fastest growing parts of the industry.
You also have a different philosophy than some of your competitors, keeping the company in one piece.
You know, you look at some of our competitors, and they seem to have their head down or seem to be reorganizing or reformatting or doing something. We're quite enthusiastic. We're charged up. We see great opportunities.
What about the difficulties of raising capital? It must be quite a challenge to raise the money needed to build out these new services.
Well, I think it is a challenging economic environment. It's still a very good one, but it's been good for so long that people are nervous about what's happening, and I think it's smart to be prepared, and I think it's smart to be cautious and to be efficient, either in your capital expenditures or in your costs, to be efficient, because I think there are clearly signs that the economy is having some hiccups. Now, with Chairman Greenspan's recent pronouncement, it looks like that may ease up interest rates, or at least not increase them, but probably going to an easing. And I think that will be helpful. And if we can guide this thing down from a very heady pace we've been on, in the whole perspective of things, that's not so bad.
Are the capital markets becoming more friendly?
Money is always available to a sound business plan that shows the opportunity to get a return on that money. For a while, we were in markets where capital was available to any story that you happened to think up last night in the middle of the night. Those days are gone, and they should be gone.
That's surprising, isn't it? Actually expecting a company to make money for its shareholders?
No, it's not surprising. What was surprising is we did look at them.
Thank you. William Esri, Sprint.
Tomorrow, we continue our series from the Business Week Digital Economy Summit. Our guest is Mark Russell, Managing Director of SoftBank Venture Capital.
The battle for Willamette Industries heated up today. The company's board of directors asked shareholders to reject a $7 billion hostile takeover bid from timber rival Weyerhaeuser. Willamette says that the $48 offer is too low. Weyerhaeuser immediately filed suit seeking access to Willamette's investor records. Both stocks fell today. Willamette lost 38 cents to 48.63. Weyerhaeuser was down 50 cents to 45.75.
The nation's leading supplier of digital subscriber lines is in the fight for its life. Covad Communications Group today slashed its fourth quarter revenue outlook. It also says next year's revenues will fall short of expectations by 30%. Covad blames the shortfall on the collapse of more than a dozen of its .com customers, mainly internet service providers. Covad shares today were down 56 cents, or almost 20%, ending at $2.50.
In tonight's commentary, whoever eventually wins the presidential race still has a lot of work to do before the January inauguration. Here's Barbara Hackman Franklin, President and CEO of Barbara Franklin Enterprises and former U.S. Secretary of Commerce.
When the election is over, the new president must quickly fill the key spots in his administration. Several jobs are important to economic policy. First is the Secretary of the Treasury. With the U.S. economy slowing and some potential soft spots around the world, this position needs stature and wisdom, someone who markets respect and who establishes good relations with the Federal Reserve. The Secretary of Commerce and the U.S. Trade Representative both have roles in expanding the exports and trade, which spur economic growth. The Trade Representative must balance the needs of various constituencies to come up with a negotiating agenda, and the Commerce Secretary has the lead in promoting and expanding U.S. exports. These jobs now need good people skills. Relationships with our trading partners are badly frayed, the result of years of high-handed treatment by some U.S. officials. We'll make much more progress if we rebuild these relationships. The chair of the Council of Economic Advisors is key and should be a respected economist and forecaster, and there must be an effective way to coordinate economic policy among the many departments that have a piece of it. But the president is the most crucial player. He must set the tone and ensure that his administration's policies promote trade, growth, and a climate for entrepreneurship to flourish. I'm Barbara Hackman Franklin.
Recapping today's market action, the Dow gained 42 points, with the NASDAQ index lost 83 points. Please be sure to join us at our worldwide website, nbr.com.
And finally, the market goes up, the market goes down. How does it feel to investors? Well, an MIT professor has some answers about the physical pain of a market drop, and it's based on his studies of reactions to the physical pain of very cold water. He finds that people adapt better when the pain is at the beginning, and the same is true for the market. Apparently, investors handle drops in the market better at the opening bell than at the closing bell. But, Paul, one way to avoid market pain altogether, just don't watch when the market's volatile.
Yeah, just cool it. Just wait until late in the day, watch Nightly Business Report. We'll settle you down and make everything okay.
Very good advice, and you didn't have to be an MIT professor to come up with that.
Yeah.
That's Nightly Business Report for Tuesday, December 12th. I'm Susie Garrow. Good night, everyone. Good night to you, Paul.
Good night, Susie. I'm Paul Kangas, wishing all of you the best of goodbye.
Nightly Business Report is produced in association with Bridge, the global financial information company providing real-time and historical market data, analysis, and news. And is made possible by A.G. Edwards, going beyond stocks and bonds to help you plan for a more secure retirement. A.G. Edwards, trusted advice, exceptional service. Franklin Templeton, serving investors for over 50 years. Franklin Templeton and Mutual Series, investment products distributed by investment professionals.
Compact. Technology solutions to help you achieve your inspirations for life and work. Inspiration technology from Compact.
And by the financial support of viewers like you. Introduce someone to the basics of stocks and mutual funds with the NBR Video Library. Paul Kangas hosts this award-winning set of free videotapes for beginning investors. To order by credit card, call 1-800-535-5864.
Local broadcast of the Nightly Business Report is made possible in part by member support and by a grant from Northwest Mutual Funds. Our value managers adhere to the principles of economic value added. Northwest Mutual Funds, aiming for better returns with less risk.
From the historic Citadel in Jerusalem comes a singular musical event, the biblical account of the birth of Christ. From its stirring prophecy to its glorious fulfillment, celebrate with the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra, Gloria, the Life of Christ.
Thursday, December 14th at 9 p.m. on WNED.
Hello, I'm Cynthia Dwyer with a special message for our members. I recently returned to WNED to serve as Vice President of Development, and I'm anxious to hear from you. Please look for an envelope in your mailbox soon. It contains a survey about our radio and television services, as well as a request for a special year-end gift. Your thoughtful response, as well as your gift, will help us better serve you in the new year ahead. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks for your reply, and of course, for your membership support.
Visit your PBS station site to see what's on when. Learn what's going on where. Find what interests you. PBS.org and your PBS station, made for viewers and surfers just like you.
Our ancestors spent a couple of million years bashing rocks like this to make tools. And that may have helped make us human. See how our hands set us free and gave us baseball. How an ancient telescope found an alien world. And why Noah's flood may have been a snowball. I'm Alan Alda. Join me next time as Scientific American Frontiers heads out to explore some of life's really big questions.
Tuesday night at 8 on WNED. We learn about their ancestors in history class. They make regular appearances on television. It's a family business where birth order and public opinion are key. The leader, Queen Elizabeth II, fondly refers to the House of Windsor as the firm.